Summer?
No.
Do you know who took Summer
No.
home when you first come home?
I'm not doing all that. I'm not going all the way back. I can't do this.
So listen, they're trying to help. They're trying to help.
It's not helping me.
I know, but they might.
There's nothing more to remember. I gotta go home.
For years of searching, for years of silence. And now, the unthinkable has happened. 5-year-old Summer Wells, missing since June 15, 2021, may finally have been found. But the circumstances are deeply disturbing. It was a remote, wooded area, just over a mile from the family's home on Ben Hill Road in Hawkins County, where investigators stumbled upon what appeared to be the long-sought evidence. The air was thick with tension as forensic teams moved deliberately through underbrush and dense canopy, flashlights slicing through the shadows. Every sound, every whisper of wind, carried the weight of 4 years of unanswered questions. As authorities worked the scene, what they faced was stark. Disturbed soil, broken branches, and scattered items hinted at intentions darker than anyone hoped. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation confirmed that human remains had been discovered, remains believed to belong to Summer. "We are treating this as a homicide investigation," said a TBI spokesperson. "The remains have been sent for forensic testing to determine cause of death." For over 4 years, the nation held its breath. Amber alerts, massive ground searches, drone sweeps, K-9 units, and search teams combed the area. The search was one of the most exhaustive in Tennessee's history. Over 6,500 leads, hundreds of interviews, thousands of man-hours. Nothing resulted in answers. Now, the silence has been broken. But the discovery raises more disturbing questions than it resolves. How did this tragedy occur? The fact that the remains were found in a remote and concealed spot suggests deliberate action. A criminologist observed, "The positioning of the remains indicates planning." This wasn't an accident, and that changes the focus of the investigation entirely. Every clue is being re-examined. Every tip, however minor, is now scrutinized through the lens of this grim development. Investigators are methodically lifting and documenting each piece of evidence, reconstructing the final moments of Summer's life with renewed urgency. The quiet community of Hawkins County is reeling. Memorials and candlelight vigils have lit the streets, reflections of a town that has carried grief too long. Neighbors and local groups gather, trying to make sense of the tragedy that has haunted them since that fateful June evening. A local resident voiced the anguish many feel. "We just want answers. We've waited long enough, we need closure." For Summer's mother, the emotional weight is overwhelming. In a voice thick with sorrow, she said, "We just want the truth, we want justice for Summer." After 4 long years, a chapter may finally be ending, but the story of Summer Wells has left an indelible mark on Hawkins County and the nation. The investigation is far from over. Forensic teams are meticulously analyzing every detail, retesting DNA, examining context and location, and building a timeline that stretches back to that evening when Summer vanished. Investigators are revisiting statements, redating alibis, asking whether anyone close, or cloaked in trust, might have seen something. Even leads dismissed long ago are being reconsidered in light of this breakthrough. The TBI continues to make an urgent, public plea. If you know anything, speak now. Even the smallest detail, an unfamiliar car, a hurried conversation, a flash of movement, could crack the case wide open. The nation has waited long enough. Now, the pursuit of justice, however delayed, cannot wait any longer. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation has confirmed that human remains were discovered, remains believed to be Summer Wells. But how and why remains a mystery. For 4 long years, the world has been left in the dark. June 15, 2021, a date etched into the memory of Hawkins County, Tennessee, and into the hearts of millions who followed the story. That was the day 5-year-old Summer Wells disappeared without a trace from her family's rural home on Ben Hill Road in Rogersville. The search was massive. Hundreds of volunteers, search dogs, helicopters, drones, and law enforcement officers combed through miles of steep terrain, woods, and waterways. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, TBI, the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office, and the FBI all joined forces, calling it one of the most challenging search efforts in Tennessee's history. And yet, despite the intensity of the search, no trace of Summer was ever found. Now, years later, that silence has been broken. In a remote, wooded area just over a mile from the Wells family home, investigators uncovered human remains. Early reports suggest that the remains had been there for quite some time, concealed in such a way that they were not easily discovered during the original search efforts. The location itself raises immediate questions. If this was indeed Summer, how did she end up here, so close, yet so hidden? Was this a tragic accident overlooked in the initial search, or something far more sinister? Authorities are treating the discovery as a potential homicide. A TBI spokesperson stated, "We are treating this as a homicide investigation. The remains have been sent for forensic testing to determine identity and cause of death." That statement alone shifted the tone of the entire case. No longer just a missing child investigation. Now, the possibility of murder looms heavily over Hawkins County. Forensic experts have explained that the positioning and concealment of the remains appear deliberate. A criminologist following the case noted, "The location and condition of the remains indicate planning. This wasn't random, and it wasn't an accident. Someone went to great lengths to hide the truth." If true, that points to foul play and potentially someone close to the case. Speculation has run rampant since Summer vanished in 2021. From the beginning, law enforcement acknowledged that her parents, Don and Candace Wells, were under scrutiny, though no charges were ever filed. Don, who gave several interviews in the early days, insisted that Summer had been abducted. Candace, meanwhile, provided her own version of events, claiming Summer was last seen walking into the house after a short trip to her grandmother's trailer nearby. But investigators never fully backed the abduction theory. They consistently said all possibilities remained on the table. Now, with this discovery, the weight of those lingering suspicions feels heavier than ever. The community is reeling. Candlelight vigils have returned to Hawkins County. People who prayed for Summer's safe return for years now face the devastating likelihood that she has been gone all along. A local resident shared with reporters, "We just want answers. We've waited long enough, we need closure." Closure, however, may not come quickly. The forensic testing process, confirming identity, analyzing cause of death, and reconstructing the timeline, could take weeks or even months. Meanwhile, the internet is ablaze with theories. Did Summer wander into the woods and suffer a tragic accident, her body missed in the initial search? Or did someone, perhaps someone close to her, place her there deliberately? Online forums and social media have reignited debates that had cooled over the years, dissecting every statement, every timeline inconsistency, every possible motive. For Summer's family, the discovery brings both relief and unimaginable pain. Her mother, Candace, was quoted saying, "We just want the truth, we want justice for Summer." But for many, that justice feels long overdue. 4 years of silence, 4 years of unanswered questions, and 4 years of wondering if more could have been done. The TBI has urged anyone with information to come forward. Even the smallest detail could help us piece together what happened to Summer. If you know something, now is the time to speak. The discovery also raises another critical question. If the remains were so close to the family home, why weren't they found during the original searches? Search teams spent weeks covering that very terrain. Could the remains have been moved later? If so, that would suggest direct involvement by someone who knew the area intimately. Experts point out that children Summer's age are unlikely to travel more than a mile from home on foot. The possibility that her remains ended up in such a location by accident is slim. This detail alone intensifies the suspicion of deliberate concealment. And yet, the mystery persists. No arrests. No suspects named. Just silence. The same silence that has haunted the case since day one. The discovery of remains believed to be Summer Wells does not bring closure. It opens a new chapter, one that is darker, more painful, and more urgent. For the Wells family, it is the potential end of hope. For Hawkins County, it is the reopening of wounds that never fully healed. And for the nation, it is a chilling reminder of how fragile justice can be delayed, denied, or hidden just out of reach. Summer Wells was only 5 years old. She loved to play outside, adored her brothers, and had her whole life ahead of her. Her disappearance captured hearts across the country because it was every parent's worst nightmare, a child gone without explanation. Now, as investigators work tirelessly to confirm whether the remains belong to her, one truth is unavoidable. The story of Summer Wells has left an indelible mark, not only on Hawkins County but on the entire nation. And while answers may finally be within reach, they come at a terrible cost. The world asked for 4 years. What happened to Summer Wells? Now, perhaps the harder question is, why did it take so long for the truth to come out? Because justice delayed is justice denied. Authorities immediately secured the area, blocking off access while forensic experts moved in. What they found was chilling. The remains were not scattered randomly. They appeared to have been deliberately placed, suggesting someone wanted them hidden from view. This raised an alarming question. Had Summer been there all along, within walking distance of her home, while the world searched far and wide for her? Detectives noted the terrain, dense brush, steep slopes, and limited visibility, making it nearly impossible for a child to wander so far on her own without leaving a trace. The site itself was rugged and isolated, a place locals say few people venture into. That alone hinted at the possibility of staging. If someone had wanted Summer's body to remain undiscovered for years, this location was as close to perfect as one could imagine. A law enforcement source commented off-record that the condition of the remains suggests she may have been there for quite some time. Soil composition and surrounding vegetation will now be studied to pinpoint how long the remains were in that exact spot. Cadaver dogs, reintroduced to the scene, gave strong alerts, which left many asking why the same result hadn't come back in 2021 when the woods had already been searched multiple times by both TBI and volunteer crews. This is what makes the discovery so haunting. Hundreds of searchers combed this area when Summer first went missing. Teams on foot, helicopters with infrared, drones, and even specially trained dogs covered this radius thoroughly. Yet nothing was found. So how, for years later, does the trail suddenly lead right back here? Criminologists have already weighed in. If Summer's remains were truly in that spot the entire time, it means the initial search failed at a catastrophic level. But if they were placed later, then someone, perhaps someone very close to the case, has been moving her, hiding her, controlling the narrative from the shadows. That possibility has stunned even seasoned investigators. For the Wells family, the discovery is devastating. Summer's mother, Candace, has pleaded for answers since the day her daughter vanished. Her father, Don, recently broke years of relative silence in interviews, confessing regrets and admitting to dark suspicions about what might have happened. Don claimed that he had long feared foul play but also blamed himself for not protecting his daughter. His confessions painted a picture of a family torn apart by guilt, suspicion, and years of public scrutiny. The community in Hawkins County is no less shaken. For 4 years, the town of Rogersville has been haunted by the posters, the billboards, the vigils, and the relentless reminders of a missing child. Locals who once believed Summer might still be alive are now forced to confront the grim reality. Candlelight vigils have already begun popping up near Beach Creek Road, with neighbors gathering not just in grief, but in anger that it took so long to find her. The TBI has been careful with its statements. Officials confirmed the recovery of human remains but stopped short of declaring them definitively to be Summer's until forensic DNA testing is complete. Still, few doubt the truth. The location, the age match, and the timing all line up too closely. What investigators must now determine is whether this was an abduction, a homicide by someone inside the family circle, or a tragic accident covered up in fear. The fact that the remains were concealed points strongly to foul play. As one criminologist put it, "You don't hide an accident." This revelation reopens old wounds, but it may also provide new paths to justice. Detectives are expected to re-interview witnesses from 2021, including neighbors who reported seeing vehicles near the Wells property that day, and family members whose stories never quite aligned. Phone records, alibis, and timelines, All of it may now be scrutinized again under the fresh shadow of this discovery. And for the public that has followed this case obsessively for years, the emotions are raw. Online forums erupted within minutes of the announcement, some accusing law enforcement of incompetence, others pointing fingers at the family, and still others begging for restraint until facts are confirmed. Yet one truth cannot be denied: the mystery of Summer Wells has entered its most critical chapter. What was once a desperate search for a missing girl is now an active homicide investigation. Somewhere in Hawkins County, someone knows exactly how Summer ended up in those woods. And the TBI's message is clear: that person's silence is running out of time. Authorities quickly sealed off the area, deploying forensic teams to carefully collect and preserve evidence. Every branch, every footprint, every fragment of fabric became a potential clue. The location, secluded, rugged, and difficult to access, raised immediate suspicions. Why here? Who knew about this spot? And most importantly, who brought Summer to this place? For the Wells family, the news was both devastating and surreal. For years, they clung to the hope that their daughter was still alive, hidden away somewhere. Now, that hope was colliding with the grim reality of what investigators uncovered. Community members gathered outside the family's church, some in tears, others holding candles, whispering prayers. A local resident summed up the emotions of many: "It's the moment we've been waiting for, but it's also the moment we've feared the most." The TBI confirmed that the remains were undergoing DNA testing, a process that could take weeks. In the meantime, speculation ran rampant. Online forums reignited debates about the earliest days of the case. Why did Summer vanish without a trace? Did someone in her inner circle know more than they ever admitted? Or had a predator been lurking in the hollows of Hawkins County all along? For investigators, the discovery marked a turning point. After years of sifting through thousands of tips, most dead ends, they finally had something tangible, something real. But this discovery also shifted the case from a missing child search to a homicide investigation. That one word, homicide, changed everything. And while the community waits for answers, one thing is clear: after 4 years of uncertainty, the mystery of Summer Wells has taken a darker, more chilling turn. Authorities are combing the area, analyzing every scrap of evidence. Every tip, every witness account, every lead is being scrutinized. The search that began in 2021 has now entered a critical stage. And this time, the difference is unmistakable. No longer is this about finding a missing child. Now, it is about uncovering a crime. The discovery site is a rugged, wooded stretch of land barely over a mile from the Wells family home on Ben Hill Road. A place so close, yet overlooked for so long. Investigators describe it as dense, tangled terrain, thick undergrowth, uneven slopes, and blind corners where anything could be hidden. To many locals, it's a haunting thought that the answer may have been there all along. Forensic teams arrived quickly, setting up tents and floodlights to work through the night. Each square foot of ground was mapped, photographed, and sifted with meticulous care. Soil samples were collected for trace evidence. Every bone fragment, every fiber, every remnant was tagged and logged. Even the surrounding vegetation was clipped and taken to the lab, where experts will test for blood, bodily fluids, or chemical traces. Cadaver dogs have been deployed to sweep the wider area, ensuring nothing is missed. The dogs, trained to detect the faintest scent of human remains, are led in slow, deliberate patterns by their handlers, their noses guiding them to possible evidence sites. Drones hover above, capturing aerial images of footpaths, clearings, and any disturbed ground. Meanwhile, investigators are re-examining old files with fresh eyes. Witness statements from June 15, 2021, the day Summer vanished, are being cross-checked against the location of the remains. Cell phone tower pings from neighbors, family members, and known associates are once again under scrutiny. The goal? To rebuild the timeline with greater accuracy and to see who may have been near that remote wooded area when Summer disappeared. Local residents recall the first frantic days of the search, when hundreds of volunteers from across Tennessee poured into Hawkins County. Helicopters circled the hollows, ATVs roared up and down dirt paths. Searchers waded through creeks and ravines, calling Summer's name until their voices broke. Many now wonder how those same woods, so heavily searched, could hold the answer all along. Did investigators miss it? Or was something moved there later, after the original search had ended? As word spreads, the community finds itself divided between relief that progress is finally being made and heartbreak that the outcome may confirm their deepest fears. Candlelight vigils are planned again. Ribbons, faded but still hanging from fences and mailboxes since 2021, are being replaced with new ones. Parents hold their children a little tighter, whispering the same phrase that has hung over Hawkins County for years: justice for Summer. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation has emphasized that this discovery is not the end, it is the beginning of a new phase. Agents are working around the clock, sifting through digital evidence, forensic reports, and fresh tips now pouring in since the announcement. Authorities believe someone, somewhere, knows what happened. And with remains now recovered, they are urging that person, or anyone with knowledge, to come forward before it's too late. The focus is not just on evidence from the woods. Investigators are looking hard at behaviors surrounding the family and inner circle in the days and weeks after Summer's disappearance. Inconsistencies in statements, gaps in timelines, odd actions that didn't quite fit. Things once brushed off are now being revisited with sharper suspicion. Forensic labs are under pressure to deliver results quickly. The remains are undergoing extensive testing, DNA confirmation, analysis of trauma, toxicology, and attempts to establish an approximate time of death. Every answer is critical. Did Summer die on the day she vanished? Was she kept alive for a period of time before her death? Was there an accident, or was this intentional? The answers may lie in the bones, in microscopic traces of chemicals or injuries. And until those answers are found, the case remains a swirling storm of questions. The people of Hawkins County have not forgotten the little girl with blonde hair and bright eyes who vanished one summer afternoon. For 4 years, her name has been whispered in prayers, painted on signs, and spoken in nightly pleas for justice. Now, with investigators working methodically over every inch of ground where the remains were found, that prayer may finally be closer to an answer, though it is an answer few wanted to face. The search that began in hope has become a search for truth. And the woods of Tennessee now hold the secrets investigators are determined to uncover. Forensic experts are piecing together a disturbing narrative from the scene, and one thing is becoming clearer with every hour of analysis. This was not random. The wooded area where the remains were discovered is rugged, dense, and off the beaten path. It is not a place someone would easily wander into. To reach it, you'd need to know the terrain, the dips in the ground, the narrow game trails, the thick brush that hides clearings from view. Investigators believe the person responsible not only knew of this spot but also chose it deliberately, intending to keep Summer hidden from the world. That choice of concealment location suggests planning. If the remains are confirmed to be Summer Wells, this wasn't a panicked decision made in haste, it was calculated. Experts in criminal behavior note that panic often results in clumsy mistakes, bodies left in shallow graves, possessions scattered, or evidence abandoned. But here, the concealment appears purposeful. The positioning of the remains, the depth of their location in the woods, and the difficulty in accessing the area all point towards someone who thought ahead, someone who wanted control over the narrative of what happened. Forensic anthropologists are now examining soil layers, root growth, and even insect activity to determine exactly how long the body has been there. Early indicators suggest the remains had been in the area for a significant amount of time, possibly since the very beginning of the investigation. If that's true, it means that while hundreds of volunteers and search teams scoured Hawkins County, Summer may have been hidden just beyond their reach all along. This realization has hit the community hard. In the early days, neighbors searched tirelessly through fields, creeks, barns, and abandoned houses. Volunteers lined the hollows with flashlights and combed through miles of rugged terrain, hoping to find any sign of the little girl with the bright smile and blonde hair. Many believed she had been taken far away. The possibility that she was so close, hidden in plain sight, is a haunting blow. Criminologists emphasize that concealment is often deeply tied to psychology. To hide a victim in such a way suggests a desire to erase, to bury the truth, but also a fear of exposure. Whoever placed Summer there wanted her to disappear, not just physically but from memory, from justice. But bodies tell stories. Even after years, bones, soil, and the surrounding environment preserve secrets. Experts will look for signs of trauma on the remains, trace evidence of substances or tools, and even microscopic particles that could link the crime back to a suspect. The question now shifts: who had the knowledge and opportunity to carry this out? Was it someone in Summer's orbit, someone who lived nearby, someone who blended into the daily life of Hawkins County while keeping this secret for 4 years? Or was it an outsider who understood enough about the land to use it as cover? Investigators are scrutinizing everyone connected to the case again, re-examining alibis, reviewing past interviews, and checking for inconsistencies that may have been overlooked in 2021. The deliberate concealment has given this investigation new life. What once was the search for a missing child has become a homicide case layered with forensic puzzles. Every detail, from the way the remains were positioned to the environmental evidence surrounding them, is a thread in unraveling the truth. And as painful as this revelation is for Summer's family and community, it may finally be the path toward justice. As the news ripples through Hawkins County and far beyond, the silence of 4 years is replaced by a storm of voices. Locals gather on porches, in church halls, and at grocery store counters, whispering the same burning questions. Online, entire communities reignite, threads once abandoned now flooded with speculation, anger, and heartbreak. Did Summer simply wander into the woods that June evening in 2021, a curious child chasing after adventure, only to become disoriented and tragically lost? Some argue it's possible, pointing to the treacherous terrain that surrounds Ben Hill Road. Coyotes, dense brush, sudden drops, and unpredictable weather all pose dangers to a barefoot 5-year-old. To this day, some cling to the belief that what happened to Summer may have been nothing more than a cruel accident compounded by bad luck. But others dismiss that idea outright. The discovery of remains in such a remote, concealed spot feels deliberate. They point out that 4 years of exhaustive searches, involving helicopters, K-9 units, divers, and hundreds of volunteers, turned up nothing. Could they all have simply missed her? Or does the concealment suggest that someone put her there with purpose, someone who wanted her hidden until now? On forums and social media, timelines are being dissected all over again. People are revisiting old interviews with her parents, parsing their words, searching for contradictions. Neighbors' statements are being re-examined in light of this new development. Some argue that law enforcement knew more than they shared, holding back to protect the integrity of the case. Others suggest missteps in the early hours, chances missed, evidence overlooked, allowed a perpetrator to stay a step ahead. In the community itself, the divide is palpable. Some continue to defend the family, insisting that grief and trauma can make anyone appear suspicious. Others whisper that foul play was always on the table, and that the truth was closer to home than many wanted to believe. What unites everyone, however, is the shared ache, the realization that Summer, the little girl with the bright smile and long blonde hair, will not be coming home. Theories spread like wildfire, but beneath them lies a harsher truth. With remains now discovered, speculation gives way to science. Forensic experts will soon provide answers that no rumor, no online theory, can overshadow. Yet until then, the questions, raw, painful, unrelenting, continue to circle like storm clouds over Hawkins County. Local resident: we just want answers. We've waited long enough, we need closure. That single sentence has become the heartbeat of Rogersville and the wider Hawkins County community. For more than 4 years, this corner of Tennessee has lived in the shadow of a mystery that never seemed to end. Summer Wells' name was whispered in churches, at grocery store checkouts, and across social media platforms. Her face, wide-eyed, smiling, blonde hair shining in the sun, became etched into the memory of everyone who saw the missing posters plastered on walls, utility poles, and community boards. At first, there was hope. The kind of hope that fuels volunteer searches, prayer vigils, and tireless fundraisers. Helicopters flew overhead. Search dogs combed fields and rivers. Neighbors gave up their weekends to trek through the unforgiving Appalachian terrain, convinced that if they just covered enough ground, they'd bring summer home. But as weeks turned into months, and months stretched into years, that hope was tested. Some began to cling to the idea that she might still be alive somewhere, waiting to be found. Others whispered darker suspicions, that the truth was closer than anyone wanted to admit. Now, with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation confirming the discovery of human remains believed to be Summer, that fragile balance between hope and despair has shattered. The tone of the investigation has shifted. What was once called a missing persons case is now openly described as a homicide investigation. The TBI has urged caution, refusing to release every detail. But their words were heavy, deliberate, and unmistakable. If you know something, say something. Even the smallest detail could crack this case wide open. And in that, there's a telling truth. This investigation isn't over, not by a long shot. Authorities are signaling that someone out there holds the key. Someone may have seen something, heard something, or even carried a secret for the past 4 years. The discovery of the remains is not the conclusion. It's the beginning of a new phase, one where silence could be as dangerous as complicity. Forensic experts are now at the center of this storm. They'll analyze soil samples to determine how long the remains were in that location. They'll search for clothing fragments, fibers, or trace evidence that could point back to a suspect. Insects, plant growth, and weathering patterns may all be used to build a timeline. The position of the body itself, as early reports suggest, points toward deliberate concealment, a detail that could drastically narrow the list of suspects. Meanwhile, the people of Hawkins County are grappling with a mix of grief and unease. Many feel betrayed. For years, law enforcement insisted they were following every lead, but some wonder if mistakes were made, if opportunities to solve the case earlier were missed. Others, more cautious, understand that rural terrain like this can keep its secrets for a long time. The emotional toll is undeniable. Parents in the community are holding their children tighter, telling them not to wander too far from home. At school playgrounds, whispers about Summer have resurfaced, the younger children asking questions their parents struggle to answer. And in churches, prayers for justice have replaced prayers for safe return. Online, the theories multiply daily. Some insist this was always an inside job, that someone close to Summer knows more than they've admitted. Others believe she may have wandered off and met with danger, only for her body to be hidden later. But the fact that investigators are calling it homicide tells its own story. They're not treating this as a child who simply disappeared into the wilderness. They're treating it as a crime, one that was carefully concealed. And so, the spotlight now burns hotter than ever on those who were around Summer in her final hours. Who last saw her? Who had access to her? Who stood to lose or gain by her disappearance? For the community, these are not abstract questions. These are the hard, painful realities they've lived with for 4 years. They've sat through endless press conferences, sifted through rumor after rumor, and waited for the day when answers would finally surface. That day may now be here, though the answers, when they come, are bound to be painful. Closure is never simple. Truth rarely is. But as the investigation deepens, one thing is certain: the story of Summer Wells is no longer about searching. It's about justice. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation has made it clear, the discovery of the remains is not the end of this case, but a turning point. And while the community waits with heavy hearts, investigators are pressing forward, determined to uncover the full truth about what happened to a little girl who should never have been lost. For Summer's family, the discovery of these remains may finally provide answers, but the emotional toll is almost unbearable. For 4 years they have lived in limbo, holding on to hope, clinging to faith, and bracing themselves for the day when hope might give way to heartbreak. Now, as investigators work to confirm the identity, the family is left torn between relief that answers may finally come and devastation at the reality those answers could bring. In Hawkins County and beyond, the grief is palpable. Candlelight vigils and memorials now illuminate the streets and churchyards, neighbors gathering shoulder to shoulder with strangers, united by sorrow and the search for justice. Balloons and flowers line fences and road signs. Handwritten notes speak directly to Summer. You are loved. You're missed. We will never forget. The Wells family, who for years faced relentless media attention and public scrutiny, now find themselves at the center of an unimaginable moment. Their lives, once defined by waiting and searching, now shift toward reckoning with what comes next. For them, this is not just a news story or an investigation. It is the story of their daughter, a child whose laughter once echoed through the hollows of Beech Creek. Summer's mother, with tears streaming down her face, expressed what so many feel but cannot put into words. We just want the truth. We want justice for Summer. The road ahead will be long and fraught with pain. Investigators must piece together not only what happened, but why, and who, if anyone, is responsible. The community will have to reconcile the years of theories, rumors, and suspicions with the hard reality of forensic evidence. And through it all, the Wells family will continue to carry the weight of loss, standing in the glow of vigil candles, surrounded by prayers, yet facing the kind of sorrow no family should ever endure. Summer's mother, with her voice trembling but resolute, said the words that so many had been waiting to hear, but none could bear the weight of. We just want the truth. We want justice for Summer. That plea echoed not only across Hawkins County, Tennessee, but across the entire country. For 4 long years, this small Appalachian community has lived under the shadow of a question no parent should ever have to ask: where is my child? And now, with the discovery of human remains in a remote patch of woods just over a mile from the Wells family home, that question has shifted from where to how and why. The search for Summer Wells has never been just another missing child case. From the moment the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation issued an Amber Alert in June 2021, the story gripped the nation. Hundreds of searchers scoured the hollows, rivers, and ridges. Helicopters circled overhead. Cadaver dogs swept through the rugged terrain. Neighbors searched barns, sheds, and fields. And still, no trace. For years, the silence was deafening. But the discovery of these remains changes everything. According to investigators, the site where the remains were found shows clear signs of concealment. The location was remote, hidden from view, and difficult to reach, suggesting that someone didn't just leave Summer there. Someone may have placed her there, deliberately, carefully, and with intent to hide the truth. This is no longer just a missing persons case. It is a homicide investigation. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation confirmed as much in a chilling statement. We are treating this as a homicide investigation. The remains have been sent for forensic testing to determine cause of death. Those words reverberated like thunder through Hawkins County. For years, residents lit candles, tied yellow ribbons to trees, and kept Summer's name alive in whispered prayers. Now, those same candles burn in sorrow rather than hope. The streets of Rogersville and Kingsport flicker with memorial vigils. Handwritten signs that once read, "Bring Summer home," now say, "Justice for Summer." Online, the case has once again exploded with theories, debates, and heartbreaking questions. Some believe Summer wandered off that fateful afternoon and was tragically lost, her small body claimed by the unforgiving wilderness. Others are convinced foul play was at the heart of her disappearance from the very beginning, that someone close, or someone lurking nearby, knows exactly what happened to her. Experts point to the discovery site itself as critical. A mile from the Wells home, but hidden just enough, it suggests planning. This wasn't random. This wasn't an accident. The positioning of the remains, the difficulty of accessing the location, investigators say these details all point to deliberate concealment. And if that is the case, the question becomes even more chilling. Who knew where to hide her, and why did it take 4 years to find her? The TBI is combing through every piece of evidence. Items collected at the scene are being cataloged, tested, and analyzed. Forensic pathologists are working to determine not only the cause of death but the timeline of events. How long have the remains been there? Could this area have been overlooked during the initial searches? Was it a location chosen precisely because it would evade detection? For Summer's family, the weight of these questions is unbearable. Every interview, every statement from her parents has been scrutinized for years, dissected by both investigators and the public. Now, with this grim discovery, the spotlight burns even brighter. The family says they want justice, they want truth, and they want peace for their daughter. But behind those words lies unimaginable grief, the pain of knowing that answers, no matter how clear, will not bring Summer back. Local residents describe the atmosphere as heavy, almost suffocating. One community member put it simply, "We just want answers. We've waited long enough. We need closure." And yet, closure feels distant. For many, the discovery of remains is not the end of the story, it is only the beginning of a darker, more complex chapter. Theories run wild, tensions mount, and suspicion lingers. Authorities continue to urge caution, asking the public to wait for forensic results before drawing conclusions. But for a community that has waited more than 1,500 days, patience has worn thin. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation has renewed its call for tips, reminding the public that even the smallest detail could break the case wide open. Investigators stress that someone, somewhere, knows the truth. Whether it's a memory, a sighting, or a detail long dismissed as unimportant, it could be the key to finally unlocking the mystery. Meanwhile, Hawkins County grieves. Churches have opened their doors for prayer services. Neighbors who once gathered to search now gather to mourn. Ribbons and posters, once symbols of hope, have become tributes of remembrance. Summer's name, written on signs, whispered in prayers, and etched into the hearts of those who never gave up on her, is now part of a tragedy that will never be forgotten. This discovery has left behind more questions than answers. Who was responsible for hiding her there? Was this the act of someone who knew her? Did authorities miss crucial evidence in the early days of the search? And most haunting of all, could justice for Summer have come sooner, if only something had been done differently? For 4 years, the world held its breath, waiting for the truth. Now, with the discovery of these remains, that truth seems closer than ever. But with it comes a painful reality, one that will forever leave a scar on Hawkins County, on Tennessee, and on the nation that prayed for a little girl named Summer Wells. The investigation is far from over. In fact, what authorities have now uncovered has launched the Summer Wells case into an entirely new phase, one that may finally expose what happened that June afternoon in 2021 when a 5-year-old girl vanished without a trace from her family's Hawkins County home. Forensic teams are working day and night at the site where the remains were discovered. Specialists in anthropology, pathology, and DNA analysis are being brought in to carefully study every fragment, every bone, and every surrounding clue. These experts are tasked with answering critical questions. How long had the remains been there? Were they moved? And most importantly, what was the cause of death? Each answer carries the potential to unravel a mystery that has haunted the nation for over 4 years. Investigators are also returning to the beginning, re-examining every piece of the original case file with fresh eyes. Phone records, surveillance footage, interviews, all of it is being put back under the microscope. Leads once considered weak or irrelevant are now being re-evaluated in the light of this grim discovery. What was once a missing child case has officially become a homicide investigation, and the standard of scrutiny has risen to its highest point yet. The TBI has made it clear, every lead counts. They are calling for anyone who may have been near Beach Creek or the surrounding areas in June 2021 to come forward. Even memories that seemed trivial at the time, a strange car on a back road, a neighbor's dog barking at unusual hours, a piece of clothing spotted in the woods, could now hold the missing link investigators need. Local residents, many of whom have carried the weight of this case on their hearts for years, are finding themselves both shaken and galvanized. For some, the discovery brings a sense of grim relief, that Summer has finally been found, that her story can begin to be told in full. For others, it reopens old wounds, intensifying suspicion and mistrust that has long simmered beneath the surface of the community. Candlelight vigils are being held once again, with prayers not only for Summer's soul but for justice to be delivered swiftly and without compromise. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation has renewed its public plea. If you know anything, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, now is the time to speak. A single conversation, a single phone call, could change everything. Telephone receiver, call the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, 1-800-TBI-FIND. Because the truth about Summer Wells, a truth buried for years, may finally be coming to light. And while the road ahead is certain to be long and painful, one fact remains undeniable. Justice, however delayed, cannot and must not wait any longer.